James Thomas Morning Blend. I'm here with what we call a hurricane chaser or storm chaser, Josh Morgerman. How are you?
Hey, good, thanks. Glad to be back in civilization.
That's great. Thank you for being back in civilization. Tell us about what you do.
So I hunt down hurricanes. I chase storms, but only hurricanes. I'm not very versatile. And my goal is to just get inside the center, the eye, to collect data. And I do it all over the world. And they're called different things in different parts of the world. A typhoon in East Asia or a cyclone in Australia, but it's all the same thing. It's a hurricane.
Wow. Tell us a little bit. Can we talk a little about what just happened in the Bahamas?
Yeah, that was one of the most, I've been chasing almost 3 decades, and that was one of the most incredible hurricanes I've ever seen. It wasn't just a Category 5, it was way into Category 5. So that thing had, Hurricane Dorian, it had sustained winds of 185 miles an hour with gusts well over 200, and that thing hit Great Abaco Island and a town called Marsh Harbor. The worst of it, the center, passed right over Marsh Harbor, and that's where I was to ride this thing out. And it was just one of the most frightening things I've ever seen or experienced.
They're talking about there's possibly another storm, tropical storm that may be forming, and it may even hit the Florida coast. How damaging can that be?
Yeah, so this new system's going to be fairly minor, but here's the deal. Once a place like has been devastated by a hurricane, anything, even like a weak tropical storm, is salt in the wound. These poor people are trying to recover and pick up the pieces. And think about it, the roof is ripped off of your house. You don't want any rain and any wind. So it's just like my heart goes out to them. They just need sunshine and clear skies to start the rebuilding process.
Now, you've got a program getting ready to hit the Science Channel. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's called Hurricane Man, and basically it follows me around the world as I hunt down hurricanes. But it's not just my perspective, it's 3 angles on a storm. So one crew embeds with me as I'm hunting down the center of the hurricane to collect data. Another crew embeds with a local family, just normal people, to get their perspective as they're just dealing with the terror of it. And then a third crew embeds with the local emergency services as they're rescuing people. So you get this multi-dimensional look at what happens when a hurricane hits a town in Japan, where it's called a typhoon, USA, Mexico, Philippines, just everywhere. It's almost kind of like a travel show too, because it takes you around the world.
How did you get involved with this, Josh? What is your motivation? What made you get to start chasing hurricanes?
It's a good question because I don't totally understand it. I grew up on Long Island on the East Coast, and since I was a toddler, I just remember getting excited as a hurricane would approach, when the wind would start to blow and the house would shake, the trees would sway. It was almost like I had a drug-like reaction, literally for as far back as I could remember. And when I was old enough to chase a hurricane, I did. I took a train because I was too young to drive a car. And, I didn't even know it was called storm chasing at the time. I didn't know there was a word for it because this is before the internet and stuff. I always had this urge to get inside these storms. And I don't know why. It's just how I'm wired, I guess.
Josh, it's interesting that these storms are getting more frequent and a little bit more dangerous. Do you feel that these storms, they keep missing our eastern coast? Do you think eventually they may hit some of those major areas and cities?
Absolutely. So when you go back in American history, we have reliable records going back to the middle of the 19th century, and most major American cities have at some point been hit by intense hurricanes, including places like, Miami, Charleston, you name it. It's hard to know exactly when it's going to happen again, but it will, and all places have to be prepared.
Wow. So Josh, one more time before we leave, when are you coming on? When's your program coming on the Science Channel?
So it's Hurricane Man, and it premieres. It's a special 2-episode premiere this Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern and Pacific, and then and then following that, it's 10 p.m. Every Sunday night.
I want to check that out because, man, it sounds like it's pretty fascinating, especially if you got that heart pumping when you get into the middle of those things.
Oh yeah, no, it's hardcore.
Hardcore.
I like that, Josh. That's hardcore. Josh Morgerman, thank you so much for joining us on Morning Blend, and we're going to stay hardcore.